All right, well, I'm assuming that we both know what we picked for a certain category at this point.
I have a backup.
I do too.
I wonder if that's the same. Okay. Hello, I'm Izzy.
And I'm Jessica.
And welcome back to the greatest genre.
This is perhaps going to be the greatest episode of the greatest genre.
I agree.
I can't believe we didn't do this for ACOTAR.
I know. There was a time constraint situation at the end of ACOTAR.
That's true.
I'm feeling good about this one.
Very excited.
Let's cheers. I think it's going to be our best yet. Mm-hmm. If you're here for the first time, welcome. If you have been here before, welcome back. Season 2 is here. We're back and better than ever. We are diving into the world of Crescent City.
Lunethion, Midgard, if you will.
Yes, across the Eastros. So in preparation for a launch of A House of Flame and Shadow, we are pivoting over to Crescent City, as you know, so we can refamiliarize ourselves with the world, the characters, the theories. We're doing them as topic-based episodes. Jessica, do you want to explain that a little bit?
Absolutely. So instead of trying to comb through and essentially summarize and read 1,600 pages worth of content for you, we instead did a speed read of House of Earth and Blood and House of Sky and Breath, and we are diving into what we believe to be the most poignant aspects of the story. We're diving deep into characters, we're diving deep into the world, and we're really thinking about perhaps what could be coming around the bend for us. And in case you haven't picked up on it, this is also a massive coping mechanism for us as we try to forget how freaking stressed we are about what is coming and everything our characters are going to be facing.
Every time I think about it, my body chemistry changes. No. So I know I'm already warm. So today's episode is our best of episode, and we're going to be doing superlatives categories.
Welcome to the SJM Awards, Crescent City edition. This is the first annual.
I know. Maybe we'll go back, and if we have time, we'll do the end of ACOTAR.
First cyclical? Maybe this should be a new tradition. Every time SJM releases a book, we give out awards for the best of in this series up to that point.
I love it.
And then we reevaluate when the next book comes out.
For sure. I agree. So just a quick reminder to keep everything kind in the comments. We love this community. We love interacting with everyone. And we can all disagree while being respectful of one another. I'm going to plug our socials real quick. You guys know the drill. We're on Instagram at _greatest genre. On Twitter at the greatest genre. You can email us at thegreatestgenre@gmail.com. We are on TikTok at the greatest genre. And what else? Spotify, Apple Podcasts, everybody got your podcast, all the usuals.
Seriously, again, we're millennials. Just go to our Instagram.
Yep.
That's what we know.
Yep.
That's where we live.
Yep. Okay, so Jessica.
Isabel.
Let's go into Midgard, across the Eastros, and into Lunethion for our House of Earth and Blood and House of Sky and Breath deep dive best of episode. Okay, our categories today, let's just read them out for people if you want to do that, and then we'll dive into each one. And
I'll do it.
Just so you guys know, we haven't shared.
We have not discussed our choices for these categories with each other, but I'm pretty confident
a
that
couple
we're
of them are going to
have
overlap.
a couple of the same ones, and that's fun too.
It is fun.
In which case, I would like to propose something to you in real time.
Okay.
If we have the same best of, I think we should get to choose a second one together.
Okay.
I
have backups for almost all of mine because I was so torn. So this might work out well. So you go through the categories.
Here are the categories of awards we will be presenting tonight.
Jessica, you were born to do this.
Not me pretending that I'm hosting the Oscars right now.
I'm honestly sure that you could do better than most of the hosts anyway.
The categories this evening are Best Character Introduction, meeting a character for the first time, which one was the best. Biggest Crush, and for this one we have male and female.
Yes, ma'am.
Best Tension Scene.
And tension can be whatever you think it is.
Well, okay.
I have one for sexual and emotional tension.
Oh, okay then. Best Action Scene. Best Spicy Scene. Best Emotional Scene. And then we have Biggest Cry, Scariest Scene, and Most Mysterious Character. And as an added bit of levity at the end, we have added a bonus category for Hardest Laugh.
Yeah, and there were a few of them in there for this
There
one.
were some chuckles. There were definitely some chuckles.
Okay, so
for best character intro, I'm gonna roll the dice here, and I think we have the same one.
okay.
And if it's true, I think we should just commit and like say the intro together.
Okay.
Do you think we have the same one?
I
or
mean,
no?
probably. I think the internet also agrees with us.
Okay.
Okay,
I
one.
think we should say it.
3, 2, 1.
Rune Dannon. Crown Prince
of the Valbaran
Fae.
The great thing about Rune's character is that he has 2 sick introductions in both books.
But his overall character introduction, like the first time you meet Rune,
He's like barging
he's not
into
even
the
on
interrogation
the
room.
page yet.
Nope. Isaiah hangs up the phone and literally goes, "Fuck, let her go right now."
Literally, let her go
have
right
a problem.
now.
Hot.
And then the next thing you know, they hear like boots stomping down the hallway.
Oh my God, Jessica, I can't
and
cope.
he bursts through the doors, and just the line on the page: Rune Dannon, Crown Prince of the Valbaran Fae.
Yeah, I
and
had
if
the same
any
one.
of you are on Romantasy TikTok,
Yeah, I was gonna
you've
say, I
heard
think it's the only character that has their own soundbite on TikTok.
And I heard that a while ago. Like that's been around for
I
like
think it
a
was
couple
out
of
before
years.
Sky and Breath was out.
I wouldn't be surprised. It's a badass introduction.
Yeah, mine is the same. And I think that I liked his because if you're introducing him in the second book too, on the off chance that you read Sky and Breath without reading Untitled Love, which I don't think
that? It's a
I don't
sequel.
know. But his introduction in the second book is
equally
arguably
impressive.
better than his introduction in
Equally impressive.
And I'm sure you all know, but he knew 3 things, and we don't have to talk about it because I will need to lie down if we do.
Well, we can't have that.
No, exactly.
And pull yourself together.
Pull yourself together. I almost said Danica as a backup because I think she has the best book intro, and it's about
We
her.
had talked.
Yeah.
That honestly, that was the other scene I was considering because it's just the most incredible opening line I've ever read, and it's
Exactly.
also the intro to her character, and so I do feel that can be our second, our honorable mention.
Honorable mention. I
Because-
also want to honorable mention one other person.
Okay.
I think that Cormac Donnell has a really good.
I
so aligned.
His entrance is very dramatic.
It's very badass too. Like,
It's very dramatic. He has everyone in a tizzy,
and doesn't he
just
have like
shows
his
up.
2 like?
He's all by
Is
himself.
he by himself? Anyway,
He's all himself and his shadows, and he teleports in, which freaks
Makes
everybody
out.
And he just kind of puts everybody back on their heels, and then he just drops the bomb
that he is Bryce's betrothed.
Yeah, that he and Bryce are engaged, and it's just kind of especially knowing everything you know about Cormac
And about his and Rune's relationship beforehand, which they get into. Once you've read about their relationship, then you look back on that moment and you're like, damn, he has some balls.
Cormac is kind of a petty queen, and I'm here for it. He saw an opportunity to make a lot of people pissed off, and he took it.
Yeah, so wow, we have like the same top 3 for this.
So far, we are extremely
You guys,
aligned.
we promised that we did not talk about this beforehand.
No,
it was
we
an
didn't.
explicit conversation. We're not going to tell each other so that it's giggles in real time.
All right, so that was
Okay.
quick.
That was I mean, I think the next one is gonna be good too. So the next one is biggest crush.
I think we should do females first.
Okay. Do you want to go first or me to go first?
I want you to go first.
Okay. My biggest crush is Lydia Servos, aka the Hind. I mean, it was hard because I have such a girl crush on Bryce, but she does a lot of things in the second book that piss me off, even though I love her.
If this were just Earth and Blood, the clear answer would be Bryce Quinlan.
And also, I definitely didn't like the Hind in Earth and Blood.
Well, we don't
really
get
know her.
anything
Yeah.
from her.
In this one, I don't know. Like, she's so brave and like she's loyal, and
I think she might end up being my favorite character in the series. I'm so excited to learn more about her because we've discussed this ad nauseum on The Greatest Genre. I'm obsessed with Aelin Galathinius. And Lydia Servos is just serving so much Aelin energy to me, the way she's had to bury who she really is for so long. She has had to endure.
She's literally sacrificed so much of herself.
She has sacrificed her mind, body, and soul. She will, like, the road to Lydia eventually, like, I don't think Lydia believes she will ever live to see a day where she is free. I think she assumes that this is going to cost her life and everything that she is.
And she
made that sacrifice a long time ago. That, to me, is just very Aelin. Mm-hmm. And I love that about her.
I agree with everything you said. And for me, it's like loyalty is the absolutely most attractive trait you can have as a person. And like she has sacrificed so much of herself to go against the Asteri and to be that secret, you know, double agent for them.
Yeah.
And
playing the long game is hard.
So hard. Especially when you can't see light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
Which for the longest time she couldn't. I think it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out now with her having Rune and her finally having a friend. But, yep. And also, she's hot.
She's the most beautiful female Rune's ever seen. No, but I think...
Clues.
Yes. I'm on the same page as you with Lydia. Mm-hmm. I actually do kind of have a massive girl crush on Danica, though. Because in a similar sense, she... sacrificed a lot, and unfortunately she gambled and lost. I don't think that should take away from everything that she was willing to risk and everything that she didn't get recruited, as far as we know.
No.
By anybody.
No, I think she found everything out through tenacity.
I don't think that's the case with Lydia. I think we're going to find out that all of those years that she grew up in Avalon or Panjara, wherever she was raised, I think we're going to find out that she, from a very young age, was trained and honed.
I wouldn't be surprised if the person who recruited her to Ophion is no longer alive, because right now Ophion doesn't even know who she is.
I think whoever Lydia's father was already in cahoots with the rebellion.
I'm so excited.
And so I think she was literally trained from the moment that she went to live with her father at 3 years old. I'm not going to use the word brainwashed because it's really probably more so that she's like enlightened. I think she was made aware of the true state of things from a very, very young age. What I love about Danica is that she lived in this whole world and grew up with everything being a certain way, she believed. And on her own,
found out.
She was brave enough to ask questions and look for the truth. And then try to do something with it.
No, that's a great point.
And that's an incredibly daunting, difficult thing to do, especially for a 20-year-old, a 19-year-old.
No, it's huge.
It's insane.
I thought about Danica as well, and I think what made it so hard for me in the end, and it's so funny because I feel like we fault our female characters sometimes, main characters.
We are much harder on our female characters than our male characters.
Well, I feel like we fault them for getting mad with
out.
Emotional reactions to things. Like me as a friend, I would have been, if I was Bryce, I would be so angry with Danica. And Bryce forgives Danica. Like she does get angry at her, but she forgives her for so much just because that was my soul friend. And I know that she loved me no matter what else I'm confused about.
It feels like a betrayal.
I feel like for me, that's the reason I didn't do it. I was like, Danica, what the hell? You have that emotional reaction and you can't help yourself sometimes from having that emotional reaction.
And I don't think Danica realized until it was too late that she was never going to have time to tell Bryce.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so honorable mention, Danica.
Bryce Quinlan is let there be no confusion.
We ride hard for Bryce Quinlan.
I love Bryce.
If I know Aelin's your favorite, but Bryce I think is my favorite of the three main ones. And besides Nesta, who is in a league of her own for me, Bryce is my favorite of the three main SJM girlies.
Of our three
main
heroines.
gals.
For me, it goes Aelin, Bryce, and then Feyre.
And for me, it's Bryce, Aelin, then Feyre.
Yeah. Cool.
Tough for Feyre. Even though we love her. Everyone just has to pretend to like her.
By the way, okay, quick aside. We can cut this out if we want to. Feyre and Rhys have so much money, and the only thing she gets people for Christmas every year are paintings.
We don't even know how good they are.
And we don't even really know how good they are.
Because doesn't she say herself at some point, I wasn't any great talent, but I just really like to paint. And no, we shouldn't laugh at something to bring someone joy.
I'm going to paint my whole family pictures for Christmas this year, and I'm going to tape their reactions and just be like, I worked really hard on it for you. This is an abstract of how I felt when you graduated high school.
Amazing. Poor Feyre.
Where are we?
Okay, now we are going
Biggest
to our
crush male hunt.
Rune.
I'm actually unwell. finding it hard to breathe, apparently.
I think the reason for me that Rune took me by surprise when I loved him so much because he's such an angsty character, which I don't normally love in my male main characters. But I think it's something about the fact that he's so good to his core and he loves his chosen family and his sister, Bryce, so hard. It is the purest form of love.
Rune is someone also who I didn't realize until I did the reread of Sky and Breath. There is a scene where he's talking to Agent Day. He's talking to Lydia. And he actually says to her, I'm nothing. I'm no one. And I'm nothing. And I've never sacrificed anything. And I've never done anything real. And he really believes that.
And he has a lot of self-awareness.
He really believes that about himself. And I didn't pick that up on the first read because he has so much swagger and he has so much confidence.
I think it's such a front.
But on the inside, he really does not feel like he deserves anything that he has been given. He doesn't feel like he's really worthy of the sword. He's so quick to give it away to Bryce.
He's constantly, until the very end, he's trying to give it to her.
Because I don't think he really believes that he's earned anything. Even the Star Sword that King Arthur, like he literally drew it from a stone on a misty island.
Hot.
And like, I understand that Bryce is the true Starborn heir and that the sword calls to her, but it answered to Rune too. And it answered to Rune for a long time
before she came.
So we know that they're both definitely Starborn, but I just had never picked up on the fact that Rune really doesn't think very much of himself at all.
No, he's
a
selfless.
Very selfless. There's no ego.
No.
And I think that's a reason why he was able to just love Bryce so much.
And he loved her even through all of the, and she deep down loved him too. But like even through all of those horrible years where they weren't speaking, the first time she ever calls him, he picks up on the first ring. He will drop everything for her, and it's just such an attractive quality.
It's a very attractive quality. Rune is hot.
Also, he's such a bad boy and he's so hot. I can't
matter.
with his sleeves of tattoos and his shaved side of his head and his long
Isn't
hair.
it?
It's all too much.
Wait,
it's all too much.
We have to talk about Kocoum.
If you could cast cartoon characters, is it appropriate for the fan cast? Like, is it?
Because when I was reading the series for the first time and the second time, when they were describing his physical appearance, the first thing that came to my head was Kocoum from Pocahontas.
And Kocoum is the hottest character in Pocahontas.
Is a babe.
He is.
Pocahontas was low key. I don't know.
I would have picked Kocoum.
Like,
he's also just a warrior.
He's a warrior. He has bear claws painted on his chest.
Oh my god, Jessica, stop! Are
you kidding me?
I'm getting
like
overwhelmed.
Listen, the connection is there. It's very hot. Rune is very hot, and he's got all the rings, all the earrings up his pointed ear, which I'm very into. And at one point, he braids the long side of his hair when they go into the archive.
Oh my god, yes,
right?
you're correct.
Yeah.
And a man in a braid.
And you know what? I never forgave Rowan for cutting his hair, and I never forgave Hunt for cutting his hair. And I swear to God, if
he emerges after being tortured or something, when
what if they shave his whole head?
No, that's too much. That's too much.
The mystic is really Elaine, but Rune shaving his head is too much.
I can't.
Okay.
I'll stop reading.
Okay, can we talk about mine now?
Okay. Hunt.
Oh my god. I'm short of breath.
And he became hotter on the reread.
He did. I mean, and that's hard to do.
Because he was sexy the first time around.
He was sexy the first. It's the slow burn.
And it is the slowest of all slow burns. I mean, Aelin and Rowan had kind of a slow one too. Burn. But I think that SJM's writing had evolved to a certain point.
Aelin and Rowan were a slow burn, but Bryce and Hunt's slow burn
was in forced proximity, and so it was
also
worse.
But it was somehow like a hotter slow burn. It was like simmering.
It was simmering
for a long time before it finally gets to a boil.
Mm-hmm.
There were so many moments where I was like feeling like I was gonna crawl out of my skin because I was just so.
And all they had to do, and it was like a paragraph or a page,
was walk into a room, like,
or like his eyes would darken.
For me, it's when Bryce would react to his voice.
Yes, when it drops.
When his voice would drop.
Oh my God.
Here's the thing. I forgot how hot Hunt was until the day where Bryce lets him down into the archives and he meets Lahaba.
Oh my
and
God.
She flips up to his finger and is like sitting on his finger and he looks at her and he goes,
well, aren't you?
Beautiful? And I was like,
oh my God. And then suddenly Bryce is like, excuse me.
And all of us and Bryce and
us
me together were like, oh shit.
Oh no.
We are in trouble.
Yeah, in deep.
This is a bad situation.
The wings.
I'm a feathery wing girl.
Oh, I'm a leathery wing girl. Just like the Malachim, I like the Illyrian.
I'm a Malachim girly. It's true.
And it's also
I need more wine.
It's also the lightning. And
like and the tattoo crown was also kind of
it was hot. Even though it was a mark of his slavery, it was hot. Because that mark said what he was willing to fight for.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, he was obviously my runner-up. I feel like if I'm going to say anything more about him, it's going to come up in my
best
hottest tension
scene. Okay, wait. So we talked a lot about he and Bryce's chemistry, which makes him really hot, but I also want to talk about the reasons, like, just about Hunt specifically, that made me very attracted to him. First of all is, I'm sorry, I'm just going to say it because it is necessary for physical attraction, his physical presence.
Oh my God.
He walks into a room and Sarah does such an incredible job of making you understand
how he fills the room.
Physically affects
everybody
in the room.
Like everyone, there's a lot of lines that even Isaiah, who knows him very well, he was in the rebellion with him.
He's fighting an instinctual
urge to run away.
Hunt is just power. And even in Sky and Breath, Bryce talks about how she's become very attuned to Hunt's specific. She doesn't say necessarily his presence. She says his power.
And when he walks into like she can feel it before it happens.
Right. She can feel his power. It's like his power is sort of rippling around him all the time, especially. And it's after that halo is taken away that she really especially starts to become attuned with that.
And just to remind you guys, that halo, it basically dampened his power down to about, I think she said at one point, like 1/10 of what it was.
Well, yeah.
Once that comes off, it's overwhelming. And he was overwhelming to be in the same room as before the halo came off for a lot of people.
Because his power has never been seen before in an angel ever.
Yes. No, it's completely unique.
Which is crazy because he did not come from one of the super pure, powerful bloodlines that the Asteri have. Like, his wings are gray. His mother was a low-class Malachim. Nobody knows he was a bastard. Nobody knows who his father was.
Except for Jasiba.
And Ada's, apparently. So I think it's his physical presence, but it's also, it's the way that you kind of see the ice that he has put himself in thaw. Like, for me, it was the way that he softened for Bryce and let her in. And also, even from the jump, the way that he was protective of her and cared about her, even that night, like when they met for the first time, he was the only one who was sitting there in the interrogation room being like, she's about to break. You have to stop. She's about to break. Even after all these years of everyone treating him like dirt, like a possession, like a weapon, like no one has ever treated him like a person for so long. The fact that he still has it in him to treat others like they are people who are deserving of compassion is an unbelievably attractive quality.
It was really fun reading and watching him just fall so hard. Like before he even
so obsessed with her.
Before he even knew that he was falling hard, we knew that he was falling hard. And it's just so giggly. It just makes you smile. You're like, oh, this so big old meanie is really a big old softie on the inside to those that he cares about.
And that at the end of it all, he was like, all I want is just a future with you.
Like, and that was
which
hard
is
too.
Why we are so mad at Bryce all through Sky and Breath, because we're like, what are you doing?
It's all he wants is like a simple life. I think that actually deep down he probably wants to mean something more. But I think he's so traumatized by what he has been through.
I think he's very afraid.
And I think that's totally valid.
And it's part of the reason why I think Sarah is saying that Hunt has a big journey to go on, because I think Hunt does have a big destiny.
Yeah.
And I don't think he's quite ready to step into it yet.
I agree.
He is my ultimate SJM
Also,
crush.
his nickname is hot. The Umbra Mortis is hot.
The Shadow of Death.
I think that's sexy.
Oh my God, my voice won't even come out.
Hot. Okay, so speaking of hot Hunt scenes.
This whole category, best tension, I think just goes to Hunt Athalar. Just basically, if Hunt is on the page, it's tension. In one way, shape, or form.
Okay, we lied earlier. We said there was one scene we talked about before this. And we figured out that we both had the same best tension scene, and it was, and I'm sure some of you have the same opinion, the kitchen scene.
In House of Earth and Blood, this is one that I remembered even after my first read. This one stuck with me.
Okay, so first of all, it's after they've had a very intimate, emotional moment the night before when he's come back from doing one of his assignments for Micah, and he is not in a good place.
And it's the first time that Bryce gets super worried about him because she has no idea where he is.
She calls Rune, she doesn't know where he is.
I think she texts him. She texts him and she's like, have you heard from Hunt? I don't know where he is.
Right.
And she's like, I'm really worried. Like, I'm kind of starting to freak out.
Mm-hmm.
And so they have this very emotionally vulnerable moment. And I don't think Hunt says a word.
I know
the entire time.
He literally just, the only communication he has is when he like, she tells him what to do and he just does it because he is incapable of forming speech. And she takes care of him in that moment.
It's so sweet.
It's kind of like earlier when he's commanding her, breathe. Oh, well, no, it's Rhys who commands Feyre when he's telling her like what she needs to do to not fall apart in front of Amarantha.
Oh,
that's kind of like what Bryce was doing for Hunt, but in a less emotionally.
And he's just hanging on to her and doing what she tells him because it's all he has to get through that.
So that happened the night before.
So that's the context. Which is important.
But what's also important for you to know is that she doesn't feel safe to leave. Like, she doesn't feel like it's safe to leave him alone. And so she just puts on one of his t-shirts to go to bed and takes off her under things.
You gotta love a fantasy novel because they can't say underwear.
So she goes
Although
into the
I'm pretty
kitchen.
sure in Crescent City they do. Because she wears thongs.
So she goes into the kitchen
also apparently
without her knickers.
Apparently Bryce doesn't wear any neutral colored underwear.
No, just bright pink and lilac and
lavender
and
neon green. And like that's more power to her.
And honestly on brand for her.
True. But it's just like also don't you wear like a lot of white?
Not Bryce, not our Bryce Adelaide Quinlan.
Okay, fine.
So they go into the kitchen.
Well, yes.
And she's wearing one of his shirts and again, no knickers.
And it was like, oh good, you're up.
And so
oh, you're awake.
Then he tells her he's starting to make coffee. Would you like to read out the whole scene?
Yes, I don't know where to start.
Maybe when he says, at the risk of sounding like an alpha hole,
okay,
I like seeing you in my shirt.
Yes, he says, at the risk of sounding like an alpha hole cliche, he said, without looking at her, as he set the skillet on the stove, I like seeing you in my shirt. Total alpha hole cliche, she said, even as her toes curled on the pale wood floor.
Oh my God, the toes are constantly curling.
As did all of our toes. Hunt cracked the eggs into a bowl. Also, he cooks. Hot.
Yeah, and Bryce doesn't.
Hot.
He takes care of her.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. He's a provider. Mm-hmm. Okay. We always seem to end up in the kitchen. I don't mind, Bryce said, sipping her coffee, as long as you're cooking. My God. Hunt snorted, then stilled. Thanks, he said quietly, for what you did. Don't mention it, she said, taking another sip of coffee. Remembering the one she'd brewed for him, she reached for the now full mug. Hunt turned from the stove as she extended the coffee to him.
Oh my God.
Glanced between the outstretched mug and her face. And as his large hand wrapped around
also
the mug,
hot. Hunt has big hands.
His mouth, he leaned in, closing the space between them. His mouth brushed over her cheek, brief and light and sweet. Thank you, he said again, pulling back and returning to the stove. As if he didn't notice she couldn't move a single muscle.
Oh my God.
Couldn't find a single word to utter. So then Bryce has a little bit of an internal monologue about her personal desires.
Her thoughts she gets carried away.
Then she says she has a huge urge to grab him, to pull his face down to hers and taste every part of him. And then she's like, okay, he has a long lost love. He's still holding a torch for her.
She says to herself, pull yourself together.
She has gone way too long without sex. Cathona's tits.
She also can't take care of herself because Hunt is in the same house as her.
Literally can't do anything.
And he has
and with Hunt
supernatural
there,
hearing.
she hadn't dared open up her left nightstand.
That's a vibrator.
To take care of herself. Keep telling yourself that, a small voice said. The muscles in Hunt's back stiffened. His hands paused whatever they were doing. Shit, he could smell this kind of thing, couldn't he?
Oh my God.
Most veneer males could. The shifts in a person's scent, fear and arousal being the two big ones.
Oh my God.
He was the Umbra Mortis, off limits in 10 million different ways. And the Umbra Mortis didn't date. No, it would be all or nothing with him. Hunt asked, a voice like gravel. What are you thinking?
Oh my God! That is the hottest line in his entire book. What are you thinking about, Quinlan?
He doesn't even say Quinlan. He just says,
oh my God.
what are you thinking about?
And then she has the best
And he
response.
doesn't even turn around.
No, that's the hottest part, that he doesn't turn around.
He literally just goes like this.
Because he can smell.
And she's just looking
and she's
at his
like,
back.
fuck.
And if it were me, I would be like,
Oh my God, fuck. Because of course you can't control it. And then his voice is lower, so it's even hotter.
and then she's...
There's
a sample sale at one of the designer stores this afternoon.
Doesn't he say, like, is that right?
He glances over his shoulder and says, is that so?
Oh my God.
Cocky bastard. Okay, I'm going to need a moment. No, I think that's quite enough
Okay.
reading aloud for today.
It's on page 507, if any of you would like to flip over.
It is? Yes. Starts on page 507.
So that was mine too.
Oh, and then she starts backing up against the counter.
Because she's overwhelmed. And no, the best
And
line.
then his eyes darken. And
No.
then her mom calls.
No. The best part about this is when he goes, well, maybe you should get some underwear on the sale. You seem to be out. Because he can tell she isn't wearing any underwear. Oh my God.
Oh my God.
I know. Stop reading. Stop reading.
I have to stop. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right,
Okay.
so that's best tension scene. But since we agreed, I think we can do an honorable mention shout out.
Okay, so my number 2 was the shooting range scene as the best emotional tension, because this is something that other males that Bryce, who she has been with, kind of balk at that part of her because it's not like the most feminine quality.
And men are insecure.
Which is, by the way, I don't agree.
Sorry, males are insecure.
Males are insecure. And Hunt looks at her and he's like, oh my fucking God, this is so hot. He's literally just watching her and he's...
Well, and I love that it was he understood what was happening. That she was showing, she wasn't doing it for Rune. She wasn't doing it for Tristan or Declan. She was doing it because she was drawing a line in the sand. And she was like, can you handle this or not?
And what I love about this scene is that there's this kind of, even though it's not a sexual thing that's happening, not like in the kitchen, that is this very sexually charged moment between them. And then we immediately transition into a very emotionally charged moment in that, because he gets the phone call and there's been another, I forget if it was Rune or Hunt who got the phone call. There's been another murder or another demon attack and someone's dead. And then
she goes and she sees everything.
Well, and she starts
has a
freaking
panic
out
attack.
there. Rune and Flynn and Declan leave. She's sitting there being like, I don't want anyone to see me freaking out. I don't want them to see me like this.
That's
and he's
right.
like, and he's like, let's
coaches
just,
her through
he's
it.
like, let's just stand here and breathe until you're ready. That was so
that's
like
what's happening to Bryce over the whole course of Earth and Blood, is that she has all of this trauma and she is triggered during this investigation many times, and she has panic attacks, and those are
horrible,
really awful, and that makes all the difference in the world to have someone who makes you feel safe
and grounded.
And I cannot imagine anyone making you feel safer than if
Hunt
you
Athlon?
had the shadow of death as your personal bodyguard.
Yes,
that would make me feel much better.
I agree.
So mine would be, I know it's kind of like the easy
I don't care
or whatever, but their first kiss in the Medwitch office.
When he's just supporting her through a very, very, very difficult moment.
And this is the reason why I didn't pick it. I think it's my favorite scene between the two of them, but it's the reason I didn't pick it as my favorite tension scene is because it's almost like the resistance is gone. Like
they've already gone through that.
They're not even fighting it anymore.
They've already gone through that.
He just wants to.
And at this point in their relationship,
and,
they
like,
know
take
that they will support each other. They're past this kind of front that they're both putting up for each other.
And then shortly thereafter, you have the full first kiss in her apartment after he has his wings cut off.
On the sofa.
And there was a lot of tension and build up to that. Mm-hmm. And that was a very tense scene as well. And to me, that was like...
The Medwitch scene is one of my favorites. I don't think that's a layup at all.
Incredible. It was... But it's not
tense
though.
Yeah, but it's very emotionally charged.
Okay, so I'm going to throw one more out here for
okay.
Because we have to do one that's not Bryce and Hunt.
Okay, fine.
And so I think the moment when Rune and Lydia have mind sex.
But their scents do merge.
Do they?
So, yeah.
How do we know that?
Because he says, our scents merged. I'm pretty sure.
When they were doing it?
Yeah.
Well,
even in his head.
Oh, does that not happen every time people do it?
I think it's like when that happens with your
mate.
I think that mates. But, I mean... Whenever SJM throws out the most beautiful woman that they've ever seen.
Like during the scents always merge, but then like afterwards, if they stay merged, could be.
I feel like yes, because you can always sense when people.
Well, everyone can smell. Everyone comments on it to Bryce,
right,
and to Hunt,
right.
So like Celestina says, so it seems that you've made things official.
I see you banged.
Everyone is very subtle, but also at the same time very awkward and like blunt about it. It's just like, can you imagine if you walked into work one day and somebody would be like, so I can smell that you've had sex last night. What a weird world to live in where that's like an acceptable
I'm happy we don't have to
like,
be around
comment on.
Veneer all the time.
That would be annoying.
Be tough. Yeah, for sure.
I mean, like, my facial expressions give everything away anyway. Can you imagine if I lived in a world where everyone could smell my emotions also?
I think it would be too much for me.
I think I would be overwhelming to people. I think people would be like, oh my God, Jessica smells all the time.
As your best friend, I agree. I think I would be overwhelmed too.
Maybe there's a special deodorant people can wear in Midgard or something. Someone should invent that.
Like an anti-pheromone deodorant?
Yeah, just something that like neutralizes all of your
I think
my
favorite tension scene between... it's not even tension though. When she reads him the story. When she's not even reading it to him. He's lying down in her lap and she's telling him the story.
After the shower?
No.
Oh,
Rune and Lydia. I was like, what are you talking about?
Oh my God, yes. And we didn't even talk about this on our deep dive because I think she was telling her story.
I think so too.
And I was like,
oh my God.
I was like, how did I miss this?
I know. I think that is my favorite moment of sexual tension or emotional tension, whatever you want to call, between those two characters. Because that's something so vulnerable that when you lie in somebody else's lap and she's just stroking his hair, name something that feels better than that.
Nothing.
Literally.
I think to myself often that is actually like the best thing ever.
Whenever you're sad, I offer to play with your hair.
I know.
Yeah. So yeah, that was for Rune and Lydia.
We're on category 3.
Okay.
Out of
We'll speed it up. Okay. So best action scene. I feel like we have to choose a moment within the last 200 pages of the first book.
I think I have mine, so I'll go.
Okay, you go first.
Bryce assembling the Godslayer rifle.
I'm glad you picked that one because mine's after yours.
On synth. And she's like antidoted herself, has no idea if it's gonna work. And she just holds her arm up and the pieces of the gun are flying to her. And Micah's coming. She's just
Is this before or after it goes into slow motion? The
world goes into slow motion when the bullet hits his head.
Right.
And it releases so much power and energy that the whole world kind of
slows down.
Does a warp.
It was giving the Matrix.
Like a reverse
It's
warp
literally
speed.
the Matrix kind of when he's dodging the bullets. I imagined that in that scene.
Even on the first reread, I remember, or on the first read, when I read that scene, I was like, this is different.
You've said to me countless times, even after only having read it once, you were like, that final sequence is the best action scene I have ever read, period.
Right. And so if we're going to choose from within that
the sequence,
I still get chills when I think about Bright. Like, you're with her every step that she runs up to the office. And SJM laid it out perfectly, like with casual, like a side reference to the rifle that was hanging there in Jasiba's office.
She teed it up from page
You know
1.
exactly what Bryce is going for. You know she knows how to fire this rifle. Lahaba had just sacrificed herself. And when I'm literally covered in goosebumps. And Hunt is watching all of this play out. And he says, and those seconds that it took Bryce to put that rifle together and be ready are the seconds that Lahaba bought her with her life. And it's just the most incredible. And that's not even the end of the book.
So mine comes directly after yours when she's dropped Syrinx back in her apartment. I know. Sweet baby Syrinx.
Oh my God, when he got thrown in the tank.
I know. It was the most traumatic thing ever. The most traumatic thing. So for me, it's when she's running to the meadows to save the humans.
In Danica's jacket and carrying sword.
Her guns on her thighs and the rifle in her hand. And it was, you know what it was reminded me of? Because they realized in this moment that Micah didn't just open like the heart gate. He opened all 7 gates, and the gates opened to the pit.
An idiot who had no idea what
he was doing. Of hell. And all of and the demons that are coming through are not Apollyon and Adis. They're hell's dogs. The things that they keep in cages down there. You know what it reminded me of? And it's just just right now came to me.
Adis says they're pets, I think.
Yeah, it reminded me, Jess, of in the Avengers when the portal opens at the top of New York and they're all coming out.
Horrible.
Awful. And then
my worst nightmare, by the way.
I understand.
Alien
and
invasion
then she's
and
fighting
the world
for her life.
descends into
And
chaos.
along with this horrible stuff that's happening, it's just the indignity of it all. All of these Veneer closing the gates to the humans and to those lesser in the society. And then when you hear Ethan on the loudspeaker say, "I'm coming, Bryce," and then he goes, "We're all coming."
We're getting into emotional scenes, okay? And we did.
But that whole sequence as she's running through the city.
I put them in the wrong order, I'm realizing. We should have done best tension, best spicy, then best action, then best emotional. Should we halt and reorder?
No, I just had chills. And I think it was because you were just coming off of Lahaba and Micah, and you were normally you get a minute to breathe, and you didn't. You got 1 page in her apartment, and then it was back into the action.
Oh, barely.
Literally.
Another big action point. I know we're not supposed to do an extra one, but Hunt killing Sandriel.
Oh my God. When he just beheads her in front of everyone?
No. He fries her with his lightning from the inside out and then rips her head off. And her face is frozen in a scream.
I know this is weird, but hot.
It was hot. And I texted you on the reread, and I was like, why am I turned on by someone frying someone from the inside out?
Okay, I know what else was it. Can I have one back up too?
Yeah.
Okay. Also, it's not my favorite, which is why I didn't take the top spot, but when they fight the Underking's massive dog,
and they power each other up.
And they use their powers in conjunction for the first time, that was sick to read. And I knew that, and I didn't have the same level as on the edge of my seat because it was not even halfway through the book. And so you know they're going to be okay. They're going to be okay. Yeah. And so I could kind of enjoy it a little more. And it was just holy shit, this is cool.
And I think that is teeing us up for more, hopefully,
more of that.
I don't think that can be just a one-off thing. I think the fact that they can channel each other
so cool
is gonna be
huge,
a big
and we know that it's not just, they might work best with them in conjunction, but Hypaxia charged her up as well. It's not just, so that's gonna be really interesting to read about in the next book.
Yeah, Bryce's powers are super interesting.
Cool. Okay, best spicy scene.
Yeah, mine is the one on the couch after he has his wings chopped off.
Nice. Mine is the gym. And I think we've discussed this before, and I think it's because I have a thing for the workout after the workout.
No, listen, they're all very hot. There's something to me about the first time you cross that line with somebody that is just, it's so thrilling. And the adrenaline is there, and especially if it's you cross that line and it's every bit as incredible as you think it's going to be.
For me, it always comes way after the first time, when it gets really good. And so my runner-up was the library scene as well, because they've just kind of been in a fight and makeup sex. She knows she fucked up. He knows he fucked up. They've they've been on this standoff all day when they're not talking to each other, and like she's scared to talk to him, and he's just outside being like, I'm waiting for you.
I do enjoy that he stood there making her uncomfortable.
Yes.
Because nobody makes her
She
uncomfortable.
hides in the
and she needs
she
it.
hides in the Faye archives
literally
until
hides.
like 7 p.m.
And then she walks out, she's like,
She's like, hi.
hi.
That was my runner-up.
Okay.
It was a short category. We don't need to get into it. Everyone's
It
read
would be
the scene.
indecent for us to quote those
Correct.
on the podcast.
Correct.
Okay, our readers know. Also, please in the comments tell us.
Oh my God, yeah.
your
We would
favorite
like to know
spicy
all of
scene
your
is.
favorites as well.
Yes.
Okay.
And we are happy to do a follow-up episode or maybe an Instagram live to discuss.
Yes.
This is why we started this podcast in the first place, because we just wanted to do this. Okay.
I agree.
Now we've got best emotional.
Okay.
Biggest feels.
Yes. For me, there was only one, and I don't even have it back up because I've only ever felt this way twice reading books, and it was at the end.
Were they
of
both
Sky
Sarah
and-
J. Maas?
No. One of them was Harry Potter. It was at the end of Sky and Breath and I did not spoil anything for myself. I did not know it was coming when the worlds of Crescent City and Prithian collide. And I literally screamed. I don't know what kind of emotion we're talking about, but I was just
To me, that was like the biggest shock.
It was just so overwhelming. Like,
And for those of you, for context, what Isabel is referencing is that I don't know if I've really like leveled with everyone about this yet, but I feel like I should. I look for spoilers.
it's a coping mechanism.
I am far too anxious to go into these books where so much is at stake for me emotionally.
Whereas I want to know nothing, and I'm not even trying to
can't.
figure it out like during the book. Like, I'm not looking for clues. I'm just taking it all in and enjoying the story. Whereas Jess like calls every single twist by the end of it.
No, I was pretty sure, like, so I know, like, I'm still dealing with it, so just bear with me. Like, I recently finished Iron Flame, and it took me a long time because I was pretty sure I knew what was going to happen, and I had not spoiled it for myself. And I was pretty sure I knew what was going to happen, and I was so full of, like, dread and anger and, like, preemptive upset that it, like, prevented me from picking up the book. Whereas if I knew that's what was coming, I would have just been like, okay, I can just read. So anyways.
So the only other time I felt that is when Harry goes into the pensive, and I think I've mentioned this on this pod before.
Oh, the Snape reveal happened?
Like, the Snape reveal happens, and I just, those are the only two times I felt that while reading a book.
Wow.
And so
the Prithian crossover was the same as the reveal of Snape's
it
double
was just like,
agent
because I don't know if I've
legendariness.
loved a series of books as much as Harry Potter until I found Sarah J. Maas. Like,
So
I love
I-
other books, the
yeah.
series, you know? And
Yes,
it's just,
I know exactly what you're
yeah.
talking about. Yeah, so I knew the Prithian reveal was coming because I had seen some fan art. That wasn't quite as much of a shock to me, and it didn't affect me as emotionally because I knew it was coming.
So it was your most emotional.
For me, the biggest emotional scene was a very close second, especially on the reread, was Lahaba's sacrifice. Mm-hmm. I think the biggest emotional scene for me, and it was validated when Sarah said that this was the scene that she very first imagined that made her
I have
write
that
the
in a
books,
different category.
was the scene where Bryce gets to see Danica when she makes the drop. There was something so incredibly moving. I lost a very close friend of mine when I was 18 years old, very suddenly, out of nowhere. I know how that rocks your world. And when she said to Danica, "It's so hard without you."
Just to keep going on.
I don't, and she
says, "I don't want to."
And she thinks about not going back. And Danica says to her, "You have to.
And there's so much for you still.
You have to go." And then when Bryce's spirit on the, on all the
And
charts
everyone's
starts
watching,
rebounding,
and
and
everyone, "Come on,
everyone's
Bryce."
jaw is on the floor, and they're like, "How is this possible? She's alone. You can't make the drop alone. You can't do it."
And she wasn't alone.
And Sabine, that moment, Sabine's line, I think Sabine might have my favorite line in the entire series, because when Sabine looks at the screen and says she's not alone.
Oh my God. This was my biggest cry, which is our next category, was this scene that you're talking about.
I was just so moved. Like, that was the moment where I really fell in love. I was like, this is something different. This is more than just a series where we get romance and magic and feel good and
story of
everything else.
friendship.
I was like, this is this is raw.
And I think also you don't get that level of friendship in the way that it is described, in the beautiful way that it is written in either Throne of Glass or ACOTAR. You know that Feyre and Aelin have best friends and they have their soul friends, but she doesn't get into it as deeply as she does in Crescent City.
It's a new and different kind of love to be focused on, especially in the romantic genre.
And I love that she did that. I love it.
And I think too, like, we're coming into a new age where women are like really valuing and acknowledging the importance of
Friendship.
female friendships
They are relationships.
And to me, it was just such a testament. I think any person could read that scene and
put
relate
themselves in the shoes.
I mean, hopefully, you know.
I know that I was reading it and imagining us saying those things to each other.
I have literally told you before, this is so lame. I can't believe I'm about to say this on the podcast. I'm not a runner, but sometimes I try to go for a run and it's really hard for me and I have to really push myself because it sucks. And, like, when it gets really hard, I think to myself that I'm your anchor and, like, I have to keep running or you're going to die. Oh, my God. And that's a fact. It's, like, a true thing that has happened multiple times.
I believe you.
So that was my biggest emotional scene because I'm just really... I love that Sarah formed this entire series that has become so much more. Mm-hmm. But I love that she formed it around the bond between these two women and that friendship and that love that they have for each other that is just as strong and just as unshakable and literally has lasted beyond death into the ether. And I think that that is a message that doesn't get told enough in today's society that is so secular. And I've had too much wine, so now I'm getting philosophical.
And definitely not in this genre, like you said.
But it's a very profound thing and a very brave thing to believe that love is that powerful. Especially a love that isn't the traditional, like, romantic love you think of, but it is. And that is why I think that scene is struck the biggest emotional chord with me.
Yeah. No, I love everything that you just said. For me, it was just the years and years of creating both of these separate worlds. And the amount, it just kind of overwhelmed me. Like the amount
it is very overwhelming. The amount of
thought,
I do wish I hadn't spoiled that for myself.
And like the Easter, and
I robbed that.
And then once you started thinking about it, and you were like, "Oh my God, all the little Easter eggs that she dropped." And then when it all like plays, I mean, she said it in her interview, is that she wrote it down and then she just burst into tears because she was like. Because she'd been holding it in for so long, and then it was on the page, and it was like this huge release. I kind of felt the same way while reading it.
Also, of course, she lets Reese be the one to like do the whole reveal because she is such a Reese.
That might be the most dramatic ending of any book ever. Hello, Bryce Quinlan. My name is Reese End. Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Oh my God. Okay, so you already stole my biggest cry, but luckily I have a backup.
Okay.
And I mean, like, the backup is also pretty obvious.
Is it Lahaba?
It's when Lahaba says, "I am with my friends and I am not afraid." And we already cried last episode about it, so I'm not going to cry again.
Callback. I thought that was a beautiful nod. I'm just going to say it here. I don't think we're going to get a third crossover into Throne of Glass. I don't think it's happening. I think she is giving us subtle, really beautiful homages. And to me, Lahaba's speech... I am with my friends and I am not afraid.
Oh my God.
And, you know, she's saying, I am Lahaba. I am the descendant of, you know, I'm so sorry, I forget the queen's name. And she says, I am with my friends and I am not afraid. It really, really reminded me of Sam Cortland and him teaching Aelin, when I'm scared, I say to myself, I am Sam Cortland and I am not afraid. And so then Aelin, that becomes Aelin's mantra, and it carries her through so much.
And she was a fire sprite.
And Lahaba's a fire sprite, and Aelin wielded fire, and I just thought that was a beautiful.
Yeah.
That was really what.
Yeah, and we touched on it last episode, but she is just.
But the tearjerker for me is when Bryce is looking at her, and she's saying, knows. "You're free. You're free. You don't have to do this. You're free." And Lahaba says, "I know."
It was her first act as a free woman.
And then everyone in the summit
is watching
it. And it's just...
And the tiniest person can make the biggest difference.
It's incredible. That was my biggest cry. Like, I was super emotional and I was moved deeply by that scene between Danica and Bryce. But I was sobbing when I reread.
No,
when
I mean,
reread
I have
that
photographic
scene with
evidence
Lava.
of the ugly crying, and like maybe I'll share it, maybe I won't. But it was like worse than when I watched Frodo and Sam on the mountain and the Mount Doom, like at the end of Return of the King, and I cried hard in that. And this might have been even worse because when she knows she's never gonna see her friends again, she's never gonna be free, she's never gonna get out of that library,
And she's so brave.
she's so brave. Okay, moving on. What's your
I'm
biggest?
actually
Was that
gonna
also
cry.
your biggest cry? Okay, we're gonna go to scariest scene.
Micah in the library.
That was so scary, but for me, that was my backup. So
Okay.
my scariest scene was at the end of Sky and Breath when Hunt is kneeling, like he's
Okay,
being pushed
so
on
ours
his.
were reversed.
Okay,
We were between the same two. But I also think when Rigulus shows up in the room where Bryce is, and you just know
shit's about to go down.
That was a very similar feeling to me as when
You see that
Micah appears in the library. But for me, the reason that the scene with Micah won out was because you were kind of expecting something to go wrong in the archives because you're walking into the den of the enemy, right?
Whereas this was like
Bryce
very taken off guard.
Well, Bryce was in the place where she was supposed to be safest.
It's so funny for the same
And
reason.
everybody else was supposed to be someplace else, and I just didn't see it coming.
For the same reason, that wasn't my reason, because you knew something bad was going to happen, and so like you've just been like waiting for something to go wrong, and like this slow level of dread has just been like expanding in your chest, and then it's all gone, as we would say over in England, it's all gone tits up, and Hunt is like being shoved onto his knees, and it is the one thing, it is the worst possible thing that could happen to him. I mean, and then he starts like, and it's when Hunt starts to panic, because we actually haven't really seen that. Like we see it a little bit when the Hind shows up and he starts going all lightning crazy around Bryce, and he's like unable to function. But that wasn't
a little different.
That wasn't panic.
No, that was like primal rage. That was like,
panic.
I'm literally gonna fry everyone in this ocean right now.
We haven't seen Hunt panic yet, and he starts panicking when Rigulus starts putting the thorn crown thingy majiggy back on his head, and that freaked me out because I haven't seen Hunt panic yet. And then it cuts to Bryce, and she says she swears she could hear Hunt screaming across the worlds.
I mean,
that freaked me out the most. So yes, for the opposite reason, because it had been building up.
No, that was very scary. That was my second. That whole final scene with the Asteri, and they're not getting out.
Nope.
But I don't know. There was something about Micah showing up in that library for me, and when he tossed Syrinx in that tank.
Oh my God. Remember when Emily Galt texted us, I'm going to stop reading if Syrinx dies?
I mean, and I immediately, being the anxious reader that I am, and I was like, he's fine. He lives. Because that is the kind of comfort that sometimes you need.
I don't think she would do that to us. Okay, can I give one more? It's really, really short. It's really short, I promise.
Okay.
That was the most dread I felt while reading. I think the most immediate fear that I've had was when the Crystallos demon rips out Ethan's throat.
Okay, that caught me by surprise,
and
too.
I thought that he was dead, especially since at first...
It's a little ridiculous that he wasn't.
I mean, like, thank God he's a Vanir, and thank God Hypaxia was right there. Otherwise, he would be dead. Because she has to like use her powers to heal him. It was really scary
when Bryce showed up at home and the pack was dead.
Yeah, and that was God, SJM is so good. Like she paints that picture.
That was such a graphic,
and all the furniture is ripped up, and she can tell which wolf is which because she knows them so well. But oh my God, and like she can tell that. Oh my God, I'm gonna get emotional. That Connor went down trying to protect Danica. Oh my God, actually, I can't talk about it. Let's move on.
That was
horrible. There are a lot of scary scenes.
That was literally like a scene from a horror movie.
Yeah.
And the way that SJM wrote it with Bryce being so disoriented and she's...
No, it totally added to it. That was actually really clever that she did that.
And like the lights are flickering and there's like liquid on the floor and she's like, ew, someone's like so stupid. Like, and that moment where it clicks is the
horrifying.
Most chilling, horrifying thing.
Chilling is the perfect word for it.
It was bad.
Let's move on to our most mysterious character, and I feel like we've talked a lot about these, so I think we can keep this fairly quick.
We just did please see the previous two episodes about our very mysterious unexplained characters. I actually have an interesting one.
Okay.
I think it's interesting.
Okay.
Do you want me to go first?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going with the wolf in the tank.
Oh, that's a good one.
I'm going with the wolf in the tank. That was a terrible thing to call her. The female
Well, we
mystic,
don't know her name, but we know she is a Fendir.
The female mystic who is also an alpha Fendir.
And there's a reason SJM put her in the prologue. Epilogue. And
I am personally, I'm picking her because, frankly, we just know the least about her of literally any character that exists in the story up to this point.
That's a good reason to pick the most mysterious character.
There's the most mystery to be had.
I was tied between the Viper Queen and Jasiba.
I thought about the Viper.
The Viper Queen just, I just don't fucking get it. Like, I don't get the pull she has at everyone. I don't understand how she controls everyone besides her weird venom. We haven't ever met another. Is she what? An asp shifter?
Which, by the way, an asp is the snake,
an Egyptian snake.
Allegedly, Cleopatra used to kill herself.
Yes, it's a very popular clue in the New York Times crossword. For those of you that don't know that. But anyway, it was tied between her and also Jasiba, just because. And then I was also thinking about Fury, but with Fury, I feel like we just don't know anything. Jasiba, she gives us little nuggets of things that you might know about her.
Here's what I think. Jasiba is gonna have the biggest impact on the story, right? I think we are slowly learning more and more about her. So there's slightly, maybe like we think there's slightly less mystery.
Think about her so
much. She feels a little bit more familiar to us because we've had more exposure to her and we trust her a little bit more. But I think Jasiba is going to have a much greater overall impact on the outcome of the story than the Mystic or Fury. My runner-up actually was Adis.
Wow. I like yours way better than mine. I'm annoyed at myself that I picked my two.
Why? I
don't
think they're all important.
I know, but now
they're all very mysterious.
They are. I think that you're right, though. I think that I think wolf...
Hell is a massive, massive loose cannon. I'm very worried about involving them in anything. I really am, because there's clearly no communication between the brothers. There's very little organization that's happening.
They could honestly all be fighting amongst themselves.
And
anyway.
I really feel that they should all stay on the other side of the riff.
Okay.
I really do.
Those were good. Yeah. Okay. I think we have time to talk about our biggest giggles. And I already said a couple of mine, but I have another one.
We talked about a big one last episode.
Which was the coffee table episode.
Ethan pretending to fight all of his enemies in Bryce's apartment.
I can't get over it.
Okay, so that's good. We're just
number one.
Take that off the table.
Okay. What's your number two? Or do you want me to go first?
I found it to be very funny at Hunt's expense when at the beginning of House of Sky and Breath, he is like talking about, right? Because we get introduced very early to this whole like, oh, Bryce and Hunt are like keeping things platonic.
When I first read that, just as a side note, I was so angry.
In the trash. I was so mad.
I'm so glad I didn't.
I mean, I'm so glad I didn't too, but I was mad.
Yeah, me too.
I'm sure it's only a fraction of what Hunt Atlar felt when, as he recounts
all of his rage and his lightning.
As he recounts to us, he left Bryce's apartment for a couple of hours to go help, by the way, which he
didn't have to do. Nothing.
Owed nobody anything, and yet he still decides to go back and help Isaiah bring, like, order to the anarchy. Okay? He gets back.
It's the best line, too. He was ready to seduce her within an inch of her life. He
literally says he had returned home to Quinlan's apartment, ready to seduce her within an inch of her life. And Bryce is like, so I've been thinking.
And you can see it.
And I'm just like, oh, God. It's so brutal. It's like so. And all he can do is be like, I've been thinking the same thing. That's a great idea.
I think that might be one of my favorite themes in Sky and Breath.
Clearly just, like, wants to die inside. Because obviously that's not what he wants to do.
I think, to your point, also just throughout the whole book, them constantly getting cock-blocked anytime they're about to just bang each other's brains out, and, like, the phone will ring, or, like, the bacon will start burning on the stove.
It's very comical.
It's just so good, and I love that Sarah love that Sarah puts those little, because there's a lot going on in these books, and she gives us these moments of levity and these giggles. Also, at Hunt's expense was one of my giggles.
I think I know what it is. But you say it.
Okay. Well, it's the scene where he goes looking for soap and instead finds her unicorns. And he knocks
And
on
he's
her
so
door.
serious.
And he knocks at her, and she's like, "Oh my god, fuck!" What?
Actually,
And she
wait.
opens her door in her towel, and also he's in a towel, and he has many muscles on his chest.
And his abdominal
And-
regions. And then, actually, wait. So we knocked Hunt hard last episode. We were like, Hunt and Rune can't laugh at themselves. They don't have a sense of humor. They're like so serious all the time. Hunt played a good prank on Bryce in this scene.
Oh yeah,
She thought he was like
Serious.
so serious about something.
and then he was like, "What is this?" And it was her purple sparkly
Jelly Jubilee.
Jelly Jubilee. And then she tells the whole, it's so cute. And then, but then she kind of flips it around on him, and she's like,
"What did you think it was?"
"Yeah." And then he gets kind of embarrassed that he
And she's like,
"It's like, did you think it was my vibrators?"
"Did you think it was a dildo?"
And she goes, "I keep those on my bedside table." And then
She does. They just have the
best
best
banter.
banter. It's
And then
so
she like
good.
slams the door in his face. Something like, "The next time you want to know about my vibrators, Hunt, you can just ask me." I forget exactly what it is what she
Yeah.
says, but then she just slams the door in his face and leaves him kind of sputtering.
Yeah. And he thought, and he went into that thinking he had
He
like
had the upper hand.
upper hand. Like he was about to make her feel so dumb.
I know. And then also just in Sky and Breath, any scenes with the fire sprites just brought me
I was
so
gonna
much
say, the
giggly
boy house
joy.
scenes were pretty funny. When Rune comes back after the scene where they go and they blow up the mech suit.
Yes.
So Rune's
When
been
Hunt
gone
uses his
for
lightning power.
Rune's been gone from a sunrise to a sunrise, and comes back to his house and finds that
Chaos is
and,
reigning.
and finds that there are now 3 contraband fire sprites and a dragon that have been stolen from a very
Mysterious
dangerous
astronomer.
person in Lunathion. And he just walks into the house and all the boys are like, "So
And they're all like sitting in the living room.
I'm gonna do it." They're like, "So how'd it go with you?"
And he's like,
And Rune is like,
"What's going on?
What
What is happening here?"
What happened with you?" And then Tristan has this incredible line.
Incredible line. He goes, "Well, you know how it's pretty, you're always saying how it's pretty sexist. We don't have any female roommates."
And Rune says, "I've never said that.
Like in my entire life.
I've literally never said that." It's just very, I would love to see it play out on a screen.
I feel like that's how she wrote it in her head.
Yeah.
She could see the scene in front of her and she was like, I'm going to throw my readers a bone because they've been going through a lot this book.
Yes.
Those are some of my favorite scenes, is just when everything is normal and everyone is bantering, and it just reinforces those ties that those characters have together. And it's just so much fun. It's
I
just
agree.
so fun.
It is so fun.
Okay, so those are my 3. The coffee table, Jelly Jubilee, and the fire sprites. The sexist roommate comment.
My final one that I'm going to say is the one that you and I had a big laugh about on the reread, where it happens shortly after the couch scene and then Hunt bleeds all over the couch.
This one's great.
And he's like, "I'm fine. We can keep going." And she's like, "I'm calling a med witch. You're bleeding everywhere." And he's like, "No, I'm okay. Really, I swear." And the med witch comes and Bryce says that
And she patches him up.
She patches him up and Bryce says that she was like literally jaw on the floor when Hunt, with a straight face, asked the med witch if he was cleared for sex. And the med witch is like, "No."
I was like, I'd say whatever led to this happening, maybe
should
you
probably
should
not
happen.
for like
I think it's like 6. It's
a
until
while. It's like a while. And it's just like,
And Hunt is just so upset.
Hunt is so sad.
I mean,
Understandably so. Like, and you're correct. The theme of them just like not like coming so close, and then being thwarted at every turn is
because we
comical.
don't get like we love
And
everyone's
and
relationship
you know
progression
what?
for its own
and
reasons,
he's
but
such a good sport about it.
he really is. Some men might break. A lesser man,
A lesser man.
but Hunt is not a lesser man.
He's not a
Sorry.
lesser male.
Male.
He is not.
Well,
Well, that concludes
I'm very warm.
our evening of Crescent City Awards. We need to come up with a name for them.
I know. I'm
think,
gonna need
I
some
think
more time.
each statue would be like a horn, like Luna's horn.
Luna's horn.
I think they would each get one of those, but we need to figure out something to call it.
We do.
Okay.
I feel like it should alliterate.
I agree.
We'll brainstorm.
Okay.
Okay. So
Well, Isabel,
This might have been my favorite.
Everything I hoped it would be.
And more.
Just like Hunt and Bryce's first kiss was everything they hoped it would be. This episode was everything I hoped it would be.
I agree. Shall we cheers?
I think we should.
Thank you guys so much for sticking with us. We will see you next episode.
Unclear.
Yeah, it's unclear, but we're definitely going to have one more. Thank you so much if you're still listening. I'm not going to plug our channels again because I feel like you guys know them, and I did them at the beginning of this episode, but we will see you in a week. And
we're so
close,
guys.
We're so close to Flame and Shadow. Everybody strap in. We're not sure what our reaction situation on the pod is going to be, but we will keep you guys posted. We're all in this together.
Yes, we are.
Okay. And on that note, thank you so much for listening to The Greatest Genre. We will see you guys next time.
We love you.
Bye.